So I always felt that Cash for Clunkers. Do you remember that program?
Yes, that was a little early before I started paying attention to the goings on of the world,
so the federal government basically paid clunkers, like perfectly fine cars built before a certain date. You could redeem them for cash, and then they melted them. And I felt like there was something pretty sinister about that, but maybe I'm just like one of those paranoid wackos who don't think Randy Weaver deserved to be killed. I don't know. Maybe I'm just on the fringe.
If an industry, if an industry is no longer about innovation and it's so big that it can't fail and it's pushed to go a certain way, well, then the best way to ensure that it succeeds is force you to buy something new, even if it's not in your own best interest.
You ever wonder what happened to all those cars and trucks from like the mid 80s through the 90s that like you grew up remembering everybody's mom and dad and grandma having, but you just don't see them anymore? It's because in 2008, the government did this thing they called Cash for Clunkers. And it was supposed to be, this jumpstart for the economy after the housing crisis. And while it did do that, everybody was getting car loans, because basically what the government said was, well, you bring in your clunker, your not as good a gas mileage, blah, blah vehicle, and we'll give you a $3,000 or $4,000 credit towards a new vehicle. But what people didn't realize was those vehicles they traded in, they didn't just go into the used car market. They were required to be destroyed. You can go down the YouTube rabbit hole of seeing some of the vehicles that got traded in that were they were nice. There was nothing wrong with them, but they went to the crusher because they were part of Cash for Clunkers. When we talk about the government stepping in and, their bright ideas, the one thing that nobody ever thinks about is the consequences that'll come. The used car market. It's the reason why when I was in my 20s, you could easily buy $1,000 car that you could just drive and work on. And that was my bread and butter for years, buying $1,000 cars and flipping them, fixing them up and flipping them. Then after the 2008 Cash for Clunkers, it's when I got out of messing with cars, because the 4-door 60s car that I used to be able to buy for $1,000, well, the ones that were still left were now $2,500, $3,000, $4,000. Like, I don't know. It's one of those things I think about all the time, and I don't think many people do think about it. The fact that we single-handedly wiped hundreds of thousands of good vehicles off this earth, all because the government gave us a rebate for doing so.
In the fall of 2009, Congress enacted a Cash for Clunkers program, and within 2 months, approximately 700,000 late-model used vehicles were destroyed. But the question is, was this a successful program? Or has it done far more damage to our economy than we can imagine? You be the judge. The requirements for a clunker is that it has to be newer than 1983, has to get less than 18 miles to the gallon, and be a running, driving vehicle that's been insured and registered to the same owner for over a year. That means that every one of these vehicles were driven onto the lot as cheap, reliable transportation. And as you can see, most of these are in excellent shape.
Most of them, I would say, are between the 95 and 2000. But there are quite a few that's even newer than that. There's an 03 and 04 up there right now.
Once the deal was made, the engines were destroyed by the dealership, completely eliminating a source of cores and parts to engine rebuilders and repair shops, thus directly affecting their jobs and many, many more that depend on the used car market. From the dealership, the vehicle goes to the salvage yard, where they have 90 days to strip it of usable parts.
I can sell anything off of it except the motor and transmission that I want to. And after 90 days, the car has to be destroyed.
Unfortunately, most salvage yards don't have the storage or the personnel to deal with the removal of all these extra parts. So, after pulling simple things like wheels and tires, the vehicle's going to go in the crusher, carrying with it thousands of dollars of used parts. So you not only lose the car, but you also lose any parts that could have been used to keep a similar car on the road. Do you know how expensive it would be to go buy a new fender or a grill for a Mercedes like this? And yet we just watched a perfect grill, fenders, hood, and doors be destroyed in just a few seconds. This is just crazy. Still not convinced? Here's something else to think about. The automotive aftermarket is one of the largest industries in the United States. It's every auto parts store, every manufacturer that fills those auto parts stores. It's every repair shop, every paint shop. It's every muffler and brake shop. It's every oil and tire company. Every company that manufactures and sells tools to work on your car. It's everything that keeps your car running, from replacement engines to that little pine tree air freshener that you hang on the mirror. What do you think happens to all those businesses and jobs if you pull all the used cars off the market and crush them? Now, I know some of you are thinking, well, what does it matter, man? This is just a bunch of junkers. Nobody cares about this stuff. Well, if we would have had that mentality back in 1973 when the first oil embargo hit, today there would be no Chevelles, no Mustangs, no Camaros, no Roadrunners on the road, because those were considered clunkers. And today, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry a year. And by taking vehicles that are 5 to 15 years old and crushing them before their time, we are destroying thousands of small businesses and all kinds of jobs that have to do with the aftermarket. So, if you don't think this has anything to do with you, you don't want to get involved, want to sit there, this is your automotive future.
Cash for Clunkers was a federal program where people traded in their gas-guzzling 80s and 90s vehicles for more modern, more fuel-efficient offerings. It was supposed to not only reduce emissions, but also boost the U.S. auto industry after the 2008 economic crash. In the 5 months that the program was active, over 670,000 used cars and trucks were destroyed. I'm talking revved to death and then crushed for scrap. But how many of those were crusty old commuters, and how many were real enthusiast gems? Well, I've got the full list right here. We've gone deeper into this data than anyone before, finding the most egregious trade-ins and most memorable casualties. I've read through this entire thing, and my pain is about to become your pain. Figuring out exactly what we lost in Cash for Clunkers feels more important than ever as consumers are being pushed towards EVs. I mean, states like Colorado and Vermont have already brought back the idea. Because the thing is, it didn't really do what it was supposed to. In fact, it might have made the market worse. If you don't already know Cash for Clunkers, or rather the car allowance rebate system, it was a federal trade-in program that offered sellers vouchers towards purchasing a new vehicle based on how fuel efficient the new car was and how fuel efficient the old car wasn't. The maximum offering was $4,500, which spent a bit like $6,600 today. That might seem like a good deal if you're sitting there in 2008 with your Dodge Diplomat getting 12 miles a gallon and you just want one of those new Priuses that all the celebrities seem to be driving. But it's not only sad sedans on this list. Imagine trading an A80 Toyota Supra for $4,500 towards a new Toyota Venza. Are you serious? And if you think that's an example I just made up, you might want to brace yourself. Let's start with Audi. Two 1985 Audi Quattros, the rally legend itself. I'm sorry to hit you hard with that right out the gate, but that actually happens. You've got a 2001 Audi S4 Avant, two 2001 S4 Avants that someone traded in, a 1995 Audi S6 Avant, the 5-cylinder, that was traded in for a 2009 RAV4. Want to understand, but it's really hard sometimes. BMW, this will sound ridiculous, but literally hundreds of BMW E30s were scrapped in this program. Of all trims, you've got 325i, 325iX, you've got some convertibles, you've got a 1991 BMW M3. Yeah, that was actually traded in for a Toyota Prius. And if that is surprising, well, it should be, because that's just crazy to think about today. But actually, this program accounted for 10% of Prius sales in 2009 as a result of people trading in whatever they had and running off with a brand new Prius. Geez, okay, is this all German cars? You're wondering where all these 80s and 90s German cars went. A lot of them ended up here. 530i Touring, 520i Touring, 540i's on this list. Oh my God, there's an E39, like the best sedan ever made. But if you're thinking that, okay, these are old German luxury cars, they probably didn't work anymore and people were happy to get rid of them for 4,500 bucks. It's not quite true because the program required that a car had to be in running condition, insured and registered for a year prior to the sale. So these were functional vehicles. These were not lawn ornaments. These were working cars that maybe they were in crappy condition, maybe they were, you know, sort of mechanically falling apart, but they still worked. And today you can't imagine just like giving away a running E34. It just wouldn't happen. Okay, there is also a 1991 M5. Someone traded that for a Honda Civic automatic transmission. Moving on to Mercedes, there are hundreds of W124s, the Proto E-Class from the 80s. Those things run forever. They pick up 500,000 miles as taxis around the world without even breaking a sweat. So you know some of these could have lived a much longer life. There are wagons, there are coupes, there are sedans. There's even, and I'm not making this up, a 1992 Mercedes 500e, which is the super sedan that Porsche co-developed. Someone also traded that for a Prius. Then you have 141 190e 2.6s, the Proto C-Class, that compact sedan with an inline six. That was a really, really strong runner, really smooth car. Then you have the W126 S-Class. That was the one built from 79 to 91. Really like one of the last over-engineered craftsmanship first S-Classes. Hundreds of those are on this list too. And I'm talking, we've got the 500, the 560 SEL, the 560 SEC, which is that beautiful pillarless coupe. Honestly, one of the best designs from the 80s period. Now, who doesn't love a Mercedes V12? Well, apparently 3 people who traded in their S600s. Those were traded for a Honda Odyssey, a Toyota Camry, and again, a Toyota Prius, respectively. All right, so there was a lot of American cars on this list, which is no surprise, right? Like a lot of inefficient American cars made in the 80s and 90s. And especially something like Buick, which... Bruh. Even in the 90s and 80s though, they were making some pretty cool cars. And one of my personal favorite cars of all time, it's gonna sound strange, but it's the mid-90s Buick Roadmaster, the B-Body Special. I mean, it's just so elegant and stately, and it was like the last gasp of that body-on-frame, rear-wheel drive American sedan. Hundreds of them met their fate. And then hundreds more of the wagon version, which nowadays, you know, with the wood panel side, the Skyview roof, the LT1 engine, those things are actually very collectible now. I mean, a couple of years ago, they landed on Haggerty's list of future collectibles. And yeah, let's see, 2, 3, 4, almost over 800 of those gone in this program. Oh, there's a 1992 GMC Typhoon on here, one of less than 5,000 ever made.
10 more interesting cars that were claimed by 2009's Cash for Clunkers program. 644 Fox body Mustangs had their engines seized, just like this 1989 Blue GT. A 1997 Bentley Continental R was turned in. One Ford V8 powered 1985 TVR 280i was turned in for scrap. 107 Taurus shows had engine seized poured in their Yamaha designed V6. One 2004 Ford Thunderbird was traded in, meaning it depreciated 90% and someone lost $40,000 by owning this car for a few years. 1,007 Camaros of various years were destroyed, mostly late 1980s. One 1989 20th Anniversary Edition Pontiac Trans Am was turned in to be destroyed. One 2008 Chrysler 300 all-wheel drive version was turned in. Cash for Clunkers took place in 2009, so this was basically a brand new car. One 2-year-old 2006 Nissan 350Z was traded in for the $4,500 credit. And perhaps most tragically, 60 AMC Eagles were lost to this program. Today is the 16th anniversary of the Cash for Clunker program from 2009. Let's go over the top 10 most destroyed cars from this program. Number 1, Ford Explorer / Mercury Mountaineer from 1995 to 2003. 46,676 of these were destroyed. Number 2 on the list, 1996 to 2000, Chrysler, Dodge, Plymouth minivans, 23,998 of these. 1993 to 1998, Jeep Grand Cherokee, 20,844 of these were destroyed. 1992 to 1997, Ford F-150, 20,222. 1984 to 2001, Jeep Cherokee, 18,329. 1988 to 2002, General Motors CK Series pickup, 17,202. 1995 to 2005, Chevy Blazer, 15,668. 1999 to 2003, Ford Windstar, 12,157 of these were traded in. And we're back to Ford Explorers. 1991 to 1994 Ford Explorers, 11,612. And to finish off the list, 1994 to 2001 Dodge Ram 1500. 8,103 of these were traded in.